he was a white youth pastor, and he led a young African-American wrestler to Christ. This guy was big. He is now a pastor in a church in Chicago, but back in the day, they used to call him Bo, and Bo was like a dude. He was big, and this young youth pastor led Bo to Christ. And so you can hear in that there was affection, there was care, so much so that this guy evangelized this young man and led him to Jesus. Well, to make a long story short, one day they were roughhousing, just goofing around, you know, youth pastor, young guy, and they were wrestling. And so the youth pastor got Bo, the young African-American guy, in a headlock, and he had him dead to right. He couldn't get out of it, and he was like, finally, I'm winning. And so he was like, I got you. And somehow, I don't know how, but the young guy, Bo, he did some sort of a flip, and he got out of the hole. And when he broke out of the hole, the youth pastor threw his hands up and said, Bo! Like something weird had happened. Like maybe, you know, he had gotten hurt, because he said it with such alarm. And so Bo, the young African-American guy, said, I hurt you, coach, man, you all right? And the young white youth pastor said, Bo, your hair is soft. And so Bo now like, yeah. Like, yeah. And then the young youth pastor said, do you know what I was told about black people's hair all my life? I was told that black people's hair was like steel wool, like Brillo. But, Bo, your hair is soft. Catalytic event. For the first time, that youth pastor had to come face to face with the reality that maybe everything he had been told his whole life wasn't necessarily so. And the frightening things about catalytic moments is it makes us ask ourselves things like, if that's not true, what else have I been told that just might not be true? It's those kinds of moments that put us on the journey to discovering the reconciling power of uncommon fellowship. And so Peter now is open to God breaking in and drawing him into relationship with people that he would have shunned otherwise. So there's a knock on the door, and there are three emissaries who have come from Cornelius. And because God has already prepared Peter's heart, somebody said prepared his heart. I'm praying that through this conference, God would prepare your heart, because when you get back home, there's going to be a knock at the door, and somebody's going to ask you to come into uncommon fellowship. And I hope you remember this message, and I hope it messes you up. I hope that you don't have to figure out, now how am I going to work this out, and how am I going to go be with these people, and how am I going to explain that to the church, and how am I going to explain that to my mama them. I hope that it puts you in such angst that the kingdom of God will start to push you right out of your comfort zone into the will of God. That's what I'm hoping for. That's what I'm preaching for. That's what I'm looking for. And so Peter says, yes, I'll go. Under normal circumstances, I wouldn't go. But God has prepared me for you coming, because now I know that I cannot call unclean what God has called clean. And so let's go. So they go to Cornelius' house, and you all know Cornelius is a religious man. He's a godly man. He's a Gentile man. And he too has had a vision from God, because he wouldn't have sent for Peter under normal circumstances. He wouldn't have had fellowship with this guy. So listen to this. Both these men have visions that break into their human existence and force them out of their homogeneous little huddles, their little holy huddles that they've kept each other separated by. And God says, I'm breaking it up. I am breaking it up. Jesus died to obliterate the walls, and you are not going to keep them erected And so you take the wall down and you take the wall down, and you all are going to meet in the middle. And so Peter gets over to Cornelius's house. He goes into the house and he's not ready for it. Now he brought 6 other guys with him, and I think he brought these 6 guys as witnesses. You know, sometimes when you go into somebody's house or into a place where you feel like, I'm really not supposed to be with these people, Lord God, I'm not supposed to be with them. And so maybe he needed folks to testify on his behalf that he didn't have no ribs while he was over there, that he didn't eat anything he didn't eat anything unclean. And so when he gets there, he's not prepared, because he expects Cornelius and maybe Cornelius's family, but Cornelius is so zealous for the things of God, and he so wants people to hear about who God is. He wants the kingdom. He hungers for the kingdom. He doesn't just have his wife and his children. He has a crowd of people in his house.